Alright, what's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing another Walking Dead video for today, leading up to the second half of The Walking Dead Season 8. In this one, we're going to give our thoughts on how we think having a new showrunner is going to affect the future of the series. And I'll put the link in the description to denofgeek.com, who did a recent article giving their thoughts on kind of what will change with Angela Kang being the showrunner for The Walking Dead. And as you guys know, The Walking Dead Season 9 will most likely feature a new beginning, which is Volume 22, which is kind of the arrival of Magna's group, which is a new group in The Walking Dead, has a big time skip in it, and it's just starting to get into the whispers, but it's very, I want to say, kind of catching up with what's going on after the time skip. So A New Beginning will probably be the first portion of The Walking Dead Season 9, or maybe the first third, and then we'll probably see Volume 23, Whispers into Screams, and then Volume 24 to finish it up. So it's kind of like the time skip is a big consideration that we'll probably see in Season 9, and then getting into the Whispers slowly, new group kind of coming in with Magnus group. Some good stuff for Carl, so we'll have to see how they adapt that in the TV series with Lydia and kind of a relationship there. I do think that she probably would be a good person to be show running for anything to do with the relationships and that, because if you look at some of her episodes here earlier, that's something that has a heavy concentration. So they go through a list of all of her episodes, and we'll do so here as well too, so we can kind of get an idea. It's going to be a big topic going into Season 9 that we'll touch on quite a bit as we get closer to it, because we'll have to see what the trailer looks like. We'll have to see if the feel of the show is different. And just what it looks like. But if there's any indication of what her season will look like with Season 9 as her being the showrunner, we can probably find it in her episodes. So let's look at some running themes here throughout her episodes and kind of her style, or at least where her focus is on. If you look at Glenn Mazzara from earlier on in The Walking Dead, his focus was very action-oriented, high-paced type of storytelling, where they actually ran out of material in the second half of Season 3, and they had to kind of struggle a bit to try to fill out that season because they had gone through so much so fast. So, that was kind of his style. Frank Darabont is showrunner in the first season and a half. His was very, I want to say, old-school horror-based, like very faithful to the Night of the Living Dead, George Romero's Dead universe. Very similar to that, as kind of like a feel, as that sort of being the key genre there. And then after that, Scott Gimple taking over with Season 4, I feel like in his earlier episodes too, as they mention here, very character-driven, character moment-driven. You could say drama, but like emphasis being on the characters more than probably anything else, I think, once he kind of took over, where the characters really kind of came to the forefront, and even in his episodes that he wrote in the first few seasons, always very character intensive. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts with the characters and then he goes from there with everything else that's happening in the story. So her episodes. So Angela Kang, new showrunner, Walking Dead Season 9. First episode she did was Season 2, Episode 6, Secrets. It was Dale confronts Herschel after Glenn tells him about the walkers in the barn. Meanwhile, Lori struggles to come to terms with her pregnancy, and Shane tries to teach Andrea how to use weapons. If you guys remember that episode, that was one of the episodes where people really didn't like from Season 2, because you didn't have a lot in the way of there was a little bit of stuff with Shane and Andrea, and they were kind of, getting into a little bit of trouble there, but a lot of it was kind of on the farm, and a lot of it was, it was very character dynamic driven, the relationships, interpersonal relationships between our characters, I want to say, is probably the focus of maybe that. Episode Judge, Jury, and Executioner, Season 2, Episode 11. Dale fears the group is losing its humanity as Rick and the others vote to execute Randall. So again, with that episode, we had the stuff with Carl, kind of seeing that walker, and then later on, not telling anyone, it come into play later, which, mentally would have, affected him. You have the things with Dale that are happening, Randall's discussion on what they're going to do with Randall. So, that's another episode as well, too. Very shocking ending to that episode. So they do, of course, have the horror in it near the end there with Dale's death. That kind of overshadows everything else. But leading up to it, you have, again, kind of character, interpersonal dynamics, arguments between the group, and kind of that being a focus in that episode, if I remember correctly, about what to do with Randall from Dale's perspective and then Rick's perspective and who's right and what we're going to do. So some considerations, which is similar to Secrets in that way with regards to Lori coming to terms with her pregnancy. Season 3, Episode 5, Say the Word. Rick struggles to cope. Andrea and Michonne part ways. Dale and Maggie head out to find food and clothes for the baby. So again, Andrea and Michonne kind of having some, argument there, or not being on the same page, deciding to kind of split there. Rick struggling to cope with what's going on with him, and after losing Lori and everything. So another episode, but again, that's in season 3, so pretty fast-paced season. Aina Judas, 3:11, as Rick and the group debate their next course of action. Andrea tries to negotiate with them. Meanwhile, the governor prepares Woodbury for battle. So Aina Judas. I remember some good stuff in that one for Merle, if you guys remember that, and some good lines and things that he had in there. It was one of the most memorable parts of that. Again, debating their next course of action, kind of thinking about what they're going to do. And a lot of this probably for her episodes could be because she's been given a lot of kind of those, those episodes that are in between. They're not like a premiere. They're not a mid-season finale or a finale. So, that could just be as a result of where her episodes are placed in the season, that they're kind of mid. A lot of these are like mid-episode, mid-arc episodes, right? Still, season 4, episode 12, Daryl and Beth seek refuge in the woods, where conflict emerges between the pair. So, you guys know how I feel about Still. I'm not going to repeat myself. You guys know it's my least favorite episode of the series. It is what it is. Whatever. Season 4, episode 16, Rick, Carl, and Michonne cross paths with the Claimers once again on the way to Terminus as the so-called Sanctuary begins to reveal its true face. So that was a really good episode. A lot of people, that's a finale, so here she starts, getting some finale episodes to do. That was a big one. A lot of people, that's one of their favorite episodes in the whole series, and I do think it is a really strong episode. You get the Rick bite and the other stuff that happens in that one. Daryl and Rick, the brother comment, that kind of thing. So, again, emphasis heavy on the interpersonal relationships, I want to say. Four Walls and a Roof, 503. This one is quite a bit different. This is kind of a finale, climax type of episode for the Terminus and the Hunters, and the group sort of killing Machete with a red handle, killing Gareth, killing pretty much wiping out the entire group. So there's that one. That's a really good episode. That's one of my more favorite episodes of the series. We have Coda, season 5, episode 8. A lot of people, the stuff with Beth and Dawn and her last episode and everything that happens with that. So people are kind of torn on that one. Some people like Coda, some people hate it. It's what it is. Try, season 5, episode 15. That one is really great. I like that one a lot. That's got the really good. While out recruiting, Daryl and Aaron find troubling signs of human activity back at Alexandria. Carl bonds with Enid, and the tension between Rick and Pete comes to a head. So yeah, that's a really good one. Thank you. That's an awesome episode, but depending on how you feel about the Glenn going under the dumpster thing, I'm not sure if 100% that was all her doing, but it may have been. It was one of her episodes that it happened in, so it may have been at least a part of it. The Next World, season 6, episode 10, that's kind of a more positive episode, and probably something similar to what we might see in season 9. So that might be a closer feel, or that might be a good indication of kind of some of the levity and some of the positive, stuff that we might see from her coming in this season. The Same Boat, so that's season 6, episode 13. The Cell, okay, Sing Me a Song, 707. Rockin' the Road, 7-9. The Other Side, 714. So it looks like in season 7 she got quite a few to do. And episode 16, The First Day of the Rest of Your Life. Which was a really great one. I think the season 7 finale was fantastic. You had the stuff with Sasha. You had the backstabbing by the Junkyard Group. It was just kind of spoiled early, so I think that had an effect on how people viewed it. The Big Scary You, 805. The King, the Widow, and Rick, 86. And How It's Gotta Be, 808. So she has actually had, at least the last couple years as well, too, a lot of different episodes she's been doing, throughout the series. She's done a ton of episodes throughout the show. So she has already kind of, I want to say, impacted or had a huge impact in the feel of the series as it is. Now, her taking over as showrunner will probably still, again, be different. So some themes I see in these episodes, and you guys can point out below kind of the way you see this. If you want to kind of try to oversimplify what each one does best or what they kind of focus on most, I'd say Frank Darabont, old school zombie apocalypse, being authentic to the George Romero films, which makes sense at the beginning for sure. Then you have Glenn Mazzara, action-oriented, probably the biggest, thing that he's focusing on. Then you have, Scott Gimple, characterization, I think, is probably first and foremost for him, and then her. So the thing with Angela Kang, and the way I see these episodes, probably the most outstanding kind of characteristic, I would say, of what she does is probably the relationships, and I'm not just saying that because she's female, but look at these episodes, Secrets, Judge, Jury, and Executioner, Say the Word, Ian and Judas, Infected Still, again, the brother, the line between Rick and Daryl, right? So there's and that's great, that was a great line. I really love that line. So for some people, it's one of their favorite lines in the series. When they kind of accept each other as zombie apocalypse brothers. And a lot of these as well too. Coda, Thank You, The Next World, the same boat. So, I don't want to say one, I'm not trying to make it sound one-dimensional, but just to try to get an idea of what is kind of the most outstanding characteristic of her style of doing episodes. When you look at it like that, you say, okay, each one, this is kind of the theme that kind of sticks out the most. For her, I would say it's probably the interpersonal relationships between characters and kind of the way just the relationships that they have between them, and the dialogue probably being mostly focused on how they relate to each other and their relationships, how they feel about each other. So that's probably perfect for A New Beginning and Whispers into Screams. You have the horror aspect coming in there as well too, like we got to see with Dale, Four Walls and a Roof, Thank You, and some of the other episodes. So there's definitely the horror aspect there where you get the big kills, because it's still Walking Dead, of course. But you also have kind of a heavy focus on how the characters relate to each other. And even if you look at Still as well too, it's not so much like a relationship between Daryl and Beth as in some kind of romantic relationship. Their ages are so far apart, it would just be weird to do that. But it's very much about how they relate to each other, how they feel about each other, what their relationship is like, or Daryl and Rick's and A, or, Merle to the rest of the group, Ian and Judas, and a lot of these Secrets, Lori and the others, and how they feel about each other. Dale, what to do about the Randall situation. So I think if I had to say, if I had to oversimplify, just go with kind of one theme that sticks out to me the most of all the episodes that she has, I'd say it's probably that she probably starts with that, and then you see the horror aspect come in, and then you see everything else come in kind of after that. But that being the standout kind of theme for her style of Walking Dead. Now, Den of Geek here says, Kang's contributions from Season 4's Infected onwards seem to fall in line more with Gimple's plan of the series than her own individual voice. Too many episodes fall into the same comfortable archetype of time killing, and that's true. We can't fault her for that. She was probably given that in a lot of those earlier episodes because she was just getting started, and they were kind of like, okay, these episodes are really important, so we're going to have this and this, but the newcomer, she's going to get the episodes in between. And that's just, you can't fault her for that. That's just what it is. You hire someone new on season 2, 3, or 4, or what have you. Everybody was kind of new at that time. But, you do that and you kind of give them some of these episodes that might be of lesser importance, or kind of episodes where she has to kind of come up with something to fill out those episodes. And they probably had a beginning point and end point, and you need something in between to kind of space those out, get your 16 episodes. You give it to her, she comes up with some stuff. So that's probably what happened earlier on. But lately we have not seen that. She did get the Season 7 finale, right? She did have that. She did have the mid-season premiere with Rock in the Road with Season 7. She had the episode we just saw, How It's Gotta Be, 808. So she's been given, the more important episodes now that she's kind of proven herself, I want to say, over the seasons. Again, this is me from the outside giving my thoughts on this. But, this is the theme we see. This kind of makes sense from the outside looking in. So they mentioned the time killing, and it says that's disappointing and suggests there will be more of the same in The Walking Dead's future. But what if Kang is determined to bring her own artistic voice to the proceedings and take the show in a new direction? There are some subtle signs that she could be capable of doing so. Through the 21 episodes that Kang has penned, there is one encouraging aspect that the handful of the best seem to feature: chaos. So this is undoubtedly partially a byproduct of Kang clearly being a trusted writer on the staff and being given juicier episodes to pen, like, see, okay, so they go into what I just mentioned, and kind of keeping characters in kind of this flux or this chaotic kind of state. Rick being unsure, the Randall thing being unsure. So that's true as well, too. You can see it that way, Coda, that she does do a really good job of keeping characters in this kind of chaotic kind of state of insecurity and kind of being unsure of themselves or unsure of what to do and kind of questioning things. So she's really good at kind of putting characters in an unfamiliar place where they're questioning what to do, what the right answer is, and this kind of thing, which we also see as well, too, this season with Rick's moral code, Carl and his impact, and how that's going to affect Rick. So that's kind of their article. They go into it a bit more. So, of course it's hard to say, but I think, given what the source material is, she's probably the perfect person to showrun season 9, because that is a huge... When you look at her episodes and kind of the style of episodes that she does and she has done throughout the show, that would be perfect for what you would want for this part of the Walking Dead story. Now, would it be a problem maybe later on when it comes to Whisper War, things like that? Some of these later seasons, season 10, 11, we don't know if she'll be the showrunner for several years, if it's just going to be for a year, how it's going to go. We'll have to see how things go with the series. But, I'm optimistic for it. It's going to shake up the show. It's going to change things up. And when you think about some of the stuff that she did, and you really think about it from a character relationship, interpersonal dynamics type of perspective for her, and kind of the chaotic state mixed in there with the horror on top of that, it could be good stuff. So we'll have to see what it looks like with her kind of being the showrunner for the whole season and what her kind of key points are that she's going for. But it will probably feel like a new version of The Walking Dead. It will probably be a reinvigorated Walking Dead, and it will probably be a Walking Dead that's kind of a little bit more in that kind of state of questioning things, in that kind of chaotic, sort of insecure state that a lot of these characters are in throughout the show, not really being sure about what to do. The relationships being very important, which is going to be really good for whoever is this relationship now, because Carl's dead, so they can't do that. So we'll have to see what she's able to come up with for who's going to replace Carl in those instances, and then also mix in some of that really dark horror. And that's one of the things I think they got to bring back with The Walking Dead Season 9. They really got to get back to their roots a little bit with that really horror aspect with the Whispers. When you bring the Whispers in as villains, they have to be really scary. You may have to kind of bring that brutality back into it and really show that. That could mix really well with really caring for those characters, caring for how they feel about each other. And then if you have a death, that's really going to affect the others too. So you get more of kind of, rather than a singular character kind of driven focus that we've kind of been seeing, you get more of kind of a node focus where you have, the nodes out, the different characters out, and then the impact on each other, more of a community-based feel, more of a connected feel, bringing in the horror aspect as well too, with some crazy deaths and stuff. Those deaths kind of being, I would think, based on her style, more connected, more connected as a community, rather than, one character reacting to, or single characters reacting to that and them changing and that being kind of the focus. More of a community-based focus, which, that's perfect for what you want to see for Season 9. So we'll see what it all turns out like. We'll see how it goes, and that's kind of my thoughts on kind of the direction that I think they're going to go in, the theme that it's going to feel like in The Walking Dead Season 9, and probably for a little while going forward, Season 10 or 11, but it should still be good. And of course, she still has Scott Gimple involved as well too there, because he's going to be overseeing kind of both shows with Fear and The Walking Dead. And obviously you have individual writers who do their episodes, so it's a team effort. It's not just one person doing everything for the show, even though you have a showrunner who's kind of head honcho for that particular series at that time. Let me know what you guys think. If you see any other themes kind of standing out from these episodes that she's done, or the way you kind of view her work on Walking Dead and what her Walking Dead is going to look like, leave a comments below. All the insight is great. Whatever you guys can think of that you see from kind of her style, write it below. And if you like this video, please thumb it up below. You can share, you can favorite, and if you're new and you want to subscribe to the channel, you can do so at the bottom. That's it for this video, guys. We'll see you again soon for another. As always, this is Trev, and I'm saying peace. Later, guys. See you soon.